to the same consciousness that is a part of our own oversoul and our higher mind that is, I describe it like the tentacles of us.
Yes.
Do we ever meet those same tentacles in our present life right here, right now? For example, through friends, family?
Yes, it's what we refer to as a counterpart.
Right.
When they overlap your lifespan.
So what happens when we meet those kind of counterparts? I mean,
Anything, everything, and nothing. It depends on the themes you're exploring.
Okay.
Sometimes you may not know them at all, even though you may pass each other on the street. Sometimes they will be your best friend, sometimes they will be your lover, sometimes they will be your worst enemy. It depends.
And exactly, and for the exchange of growth and expansion for both parties in which we agreed on. Very nice. One more thing just on the E.T. Pharaoh. I know that we had a son, hybrid. Just want to know if that consciousness is, if I'm connected to that consciousness here in this present reality, or?
No.
Okay.
This is something quite different.
Okay.
And we will talk about that subject another time.
Okay.
It is not yet time for the revelation of those particular hybrids.
Okay, very good. I had a dream many months ago, almost as if I would describe I was in space and there was no sound. And there was about 5 beings silent in front of me, and they were very glowy, light kind of beings, and their outer aura was purple. I'd just like to know who they were, or I saw them, I felt like I smiled back at them. I didn't want to be afraid, and I wanted them to know that I did receive their energy, and I just wanted to know where they came from or if I needed any extra.
They're your support group. Let's leave it at that for the moment.
Okay. Am I asking too many questions that I'm not supposed to know right now?
It's not that. It's just that there are certain processes you're going through that would be better served if you actually continued to go through them.
Absolutely.
At the moment, you can be aware of these things, and we can give you what we're allowed to give you, and we're happy to do so. Nevertheless, we are also being asked not to give you too much yet, because they have some things in store that you need to be aware of in your own timing.
Very nice.
But you can focus on the violet vibration and remember how that felt, and thus put yourself in the same state of being and see what happens if you do that in an intentional way.
Okay, very nice. Is this the same thing? The same thing happened when I would describe as the goddess Bast, who's a cat. She kind of just like jumped into my dream one day in the same kind of energy.
Yes, well, again,
vibe.
because of the cross connections you are making to the idea of ancient Egypt and the priesthood and all of that, and you're dealing with archetypal consciousness level energies, there are many things going on here that tell a tale of another story in another dimension that require much too much time to go into now in detail. But you're beginning to get snatches and tidbits and snippets of these things that will eventually all grow together to form one linear story for you. So you're seeing bits and pieces at the moment.
Very nice. So then the path. So then I'm flowing with my path, if you will, and meeting these extra stories and counterparts.
Yes.
That are adding to the experience, the expansion. One more question. I am an acting coach, and I teach actors.
All right.
And I like to infuse a lot of my acting with actual, some of the metaphysical properties, principles that we teach.
Yes.
And in my mind, I like to kind of tailor the child to know about their human avatar mechanism and really know about their senses and observation and awareness, because I'm feeling that is part of, is that a good way to help in their development?
Is it your way? Does it excite you?
Yes.
Then it's a good way.
Do you have any more?
Because it works for you.
Good.
You do understand that at its height, when an individual can truly allow themselves to transform into another personality, yes?
Yes.
What you call acting.
Or shapeshifting, as you said earlier.
In a sense, is a form that we might refer to as multiple personality order.
Yes. Yes.
Because there is connective tissue between them in a way that can allow for smooth communication rather than the disorder. Do you understand? So it's a form of channeling, of course. And every one of you contain multitudes of personalities and are connected to multitudes of personalities, and you can shapeshift into them. And that's what acting is. Yes?
Yes.
You become that person, literally, but retain a connection to the idea of an overall identity.
Yes.
That contains all of those personality expressions. This is multiple personality order.
Yes.
And so?
And so I just wanted to maybe if there was like a clarification or an add-in to.
I just gave you one. Multiple personality order.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't understand what we're saying by that.
Could you please clarify or go a little bit deeper into it?
But what do you think it means?
Multiple personality order, that we have the ability to use these multiple personalities to get through whichever energy we need to inhibit for whatever expansion or situation, circumstance pertaining to that moment in our reality for the sake of our growth.
Well, you talk about the idea of acting, but you know that the best acting comes from when the situation and circumstance that's been created is treated as if it's real.
Yes.
Then it is real.
Yes.
You are actually seeing a glimpse of parallel realities, parallel versions of those persons.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, I do.
So you can use the idea that you're tapping into a multitude of parallel realities to describe the concept of acting.
Yes.
So that's another way to view it, if that is something that is of interest to you. Doesn't have to be, but we have given you the suggestion that you have asked for, and you may not completely wrap your mind around it yet, but let it sink in and see what it does for you in your dreams. You may come up with something that works and is connected to the concept of understanding how to present the concept of parallel reality versions of people that then can allow them to tap into them in a way where when they bring them through, they will understand that without losing the sense of their own identity, they really will be that identity. And that you're actually seeing multiple worlds on the stage simultaneously.
Yes. And so by bringing out these multidimensional personalities within ourselves, this, of course, adds to our I guess I'll use the word upgraded, evolved next stage.
Yes, but let me express this more precisely and take it a step further for you, because you're still assuming that what we're talking about are multiple personalities within you.
Okay.
We're saying that when someone really becomes that person, you are actually being given an opportunity to literally see a parallel reality made flesh.
Okay. Yes.
Do you follow me?
Yes, I do.
The stage suddenly becomes a portal upon which multiple parallel realities can actually be presented to your reality.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
Literally. The people on the stage are not the same people who are then walking off the stage to go home. You are literally looking at a parallel reality. Literally.
Yes.
Do you understand?
I do understand.
That is the power of acting.
Yes.
Does this help?
Yes, it does.
Feels exciting, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bashar.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
This is why your stories are so powerful. You are really tapping into alternate realities and exploring them for yourselves to decide whether or not they present something you prefer to shift to.
It is a pleasure to share this time and space with you, Bashar.
And you as well. Good day.
Thank you. So, I understand that my outer reality is a direct reflection of my inner reality. Is that correct?
It is, but what you see on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that it's an absolute one-to-one reflection of things or issues that you have to necessarily pay attention to the same degree that someone else might, who might be sharing a similar reality with you. In other words, it's an orchestration, and sometimes when you interact with things, situations, circumstances, people, objects, what have you, there may be an orchestrational reason for you to be there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what someone else is experiencing is exactly what you need to work on. Okay. You may just be there for them to support them in their ability to work on it too. But you have to have an honest self-assessment as to what it is that's actually there for you. Nevertheless, it's still a reflection because you're willing to be part of that orchestration. So it reveals that to you, if nothing else.
So my reflection and reality, if it will, has been telling me some different things lately that I would like some clarification
All right,
with.
such as?
The globe being round or flat.
Yes, well, you know the globe is round.
Okay.
Why would you assume that it's flat?
I assume that it's flat because of the eye test. I don't feel like we're spinning. I don't.
So what?
It made more sense for it to be flat in my
Not
estimation.
really. Not when you understand how things work, it doesn't.
Okay.
So The flatness idea comes from and is real on another dimensional level,
Right.
the holographic level that projects information that needs no dimension into the idea of realities that then are expressed dimensionally.
Okay.
So in that context, the Earth is both flat and a globe. But in your physical dimension, it's experienced as a globe.
Thank you.
It's another dimension that experiences it at flat. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. So in this lifetime, do I go from one to another?
Well,
from
you
the flat
exist
to the
in
globe?
all of them.
Okay.
Versions of you exist in all of them.
Right.
So you may be cross-connecting to that, and that's why you're wondering whether it's flat or round.
Right.
But in this third density reality, it's expressed as a globe. But you also are aware of the fact that in another dimension, it's expressed as flat information.
Okay. So another thing that has been in my reality lately is the cloning centers have been popping up, and I've been finding out more information on that. Is that a true statement? The Donald Marshall has been coming out with the cloning centers?
Not as much as you think.
Okay.
There are some experiments on your planet with regard to this process, but not as much as you think, and not always in the way that many people assume it to be being used.
Okay. So the information coming through Donald Marshall isn't necessarily correct.
It's an interpretation that is correct for one particular reality, and you have to decide whether that's the reality you prefer or whether you prefer another.
Okay.
Remember,
I kind of prefer not.
all things you can imagine are somewhere happening.
Right.
You cannot imagine non-existence.
Right.
Therefore, it's just an issue of, is that the reality you prefer when it's being offered to you?
Right.
If not,
If
then
that's my
go in a
attitude.
different direction.
Okay. I found myself saying the other day that I had hybrid children, and I didn't even know where that came from coming out of my mouth. Could you
Probably
please
came from one of the hybrid children.
Could you elaborate on that for me, please?
Well, you understand the hybridization agenda, yes?
Very little.
All right. Well, you understand that beings that you typically refer to on average as the gray beings, you're familiar with this?
Yes.
Conducted a hybridization program because they were really originally humans from a parallel version of Earth that destroyed their world and mutated themselves into the beings you understand as the grays.
Right.
Not being able to any longer reproduce, they realized that the only way to save their civilization was to find a viable source of human DNA, and that means they had to tunnel into parallel realities, such as yours, where humans still exist in their original form, thus taking genetic material, blending it with their own and a few other things, and creating the hybrids of which my civilization is one offshoot. And there are other children still existing in a variety of ways that are more contemporary with your civilization that will ultimately come and live among you. Thus, beginning the transformation of your world into what we typically refer to as the sixth hybrid race, because there are already 5 others.
So in our ascension, we all have different timelines for this, or are we all going together?
The ones that decide to be of a similar vibration will experience themselves going together. The ones that have different timelines will not.
Okay, it's that easy.
It's that easy.
All right, and since all our realities are just reflections, can our inner world affect changes like the election and like the upcoming changes?
Again, yes, but it's not that you're changing the world you're in.
Right.
It's that you're shifting to a world that already has those expressions as a reflection of the change in energy you've made within yourself. But remember, you have also made agreements to share some of this and go through certain processes with other people in order to learn things, in order to grow from it. And one of the things you learn is more readily how to shift to realities that are already in existence that are more reflective of what you prefer, by being in a reality that is reflective of what you don't prefer.
Makes sense.
It does. That's why I said it.
So when I am following my highest excitement, sometimes I fight the feeling of I'm not working hard enough, I'm being lazy, and then I have to balance that out.
Again, remember that it's all about letting go of beliefs that are out of alignment with that vibration.
Right.
But one of the things excitement does is bring those things up to your attention that you may be holding on to that you didn't know about. So if you are acting on your excitement and suddenly you find that there is a negative feeling, a negative experience, a negative belief within you, then excitement is doing its job by revealing that to you so you can let it go and add the energy to your excitement. So, in other words, whenever your excitement brings up something within you that you don't prefer, get excited about the fact that it did that.
Okay.
That's part of the excitement process. Because then once you're consciously aware of it, you have something to work with. You have something to let go of.
Okay.
If it remains unknown, then you can't do anything about it.
Right.
So that's part of the process.
And
So
how do
be
I lay
excited
that
about
down?
it. Lay it down?
Yes. How do I lay that down, that feeling, that
When
negative
you allow
feeling of-
yourself to actually consciously identify the belief that's out of alignment with you,
Yes.
the moment you truly access it and truly consciously identify it, it will automatically and immediately appear nonsensical and illogical. And as soon as it does, it's gone.
Okay.
That's the end of the process.
Right.
Because if you really actually see it as nonsensical and illogical, there is no reason to hold on to it. If you are still holding on to it in your behavior, then there's another belief you haven't found that says you must. Find that one. Keep digging.
Understand.
Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sir. Oh, so formal. All right.
I was led to get some numbers on my arm that I was told would help me to remember my own frequency. Can you please expound on that?
What numbers are you talking about?
I have a tattoo that says 92.78 on my arm.
92.78.
Yes, sir. And I have no idea where that came from.
One moment.
Thank you.
All right. You understand that your quote-unquote average normal temperature of your human body, 98.6, yes?
Yes, sir.
You don't have to keep calling me sir, but I appreciate
Yes,
it.
Bashar.
When you are shifted, you remember when we talked about the idea that there is a version of physical reality that's slightly out of phase with yours,
Okay.
and in which many encounters actually happen?
Yes.
Because they can't really happen in your reality because of the vibrational difference, but they can happen in that reality. That's your body temperature in that reality. Because that is the difference of the shift.
I understand.
So, does that help you?
That does help. Why was I led to get that?
Because
Reminded
it
of that.
reminds you of how to tap into the idea of that reality. And thus, it makes the
Ah.
shift easier.
Okay.
You
Fair.
have, in other words, a target to shoot for.
Hello, Bashar. How are you?
Perfect. And you?
I am great. Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to speak with you today.
Always a passion and a pleasure for us as well.
That's wonderful. My gratitude for your transmissions and the formula, they have helped me so much. So my appreciation.
All right. What would you like to discuss this day?
I would like to talk about time. You've
Yes.
mentioned that all time is here and now. However, we experience time in a linear fashion.
Yes.
Why is that?
So that you can experience the process of change, the creation and discovery of new points of view, which cannot be experienced in a timeless state when you are aware of everything. So you create the forgetfulness that allows you to understand that you know everything and are connected to everything, so that you can play out the process of discovering a new perspective of yourself, because that is how creation expands, that is how the soul grows, because the structure of existence never changes, because everything is here and now. But the relationship to that structure, the experience of that structure, the perspective of that structure is what always constantly changes, which is what allows creation to expand. So you're playing your part in the expansion of creation by creating the experience of linear time so that you can discover something new from a new perspective through the process of discovery, through the process of change, rather than things simply being instantaneously there. Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Let me ask a follow-up question. So
Yes.
from the process of change, is that from remembering our past and thinking about how we want to be right now in our present? And so that's bringing up change?
Yes. By making the comparison that you have created in linear time with the idea of a progression from past through present to future, you give yourself the perspective necessary to experience a process of change.
Okay. So,
In that process, you learn many different lessons that you otherwise wouldn't learn in the same way by being in instantaneous existence.
okay. So one of our experiences with coming down into a physical body or having the soul create a physical body for us is for us to experience that. So if we wanted to experience time the way you do in our physical bodies, is that even possible?
To some degree, you can, but it will still be only that which is relevant for your physical experience, although you can expand it a bit. But let me give you another analogy. Look at it from a story structure point of view. How would you feel about a story that you were eager to hear or to see if it began once upon a time and then suddenly said, and they lived happily ever after? You would go, well, what happened in the middle?
Right.
So, by having physical linear reality, you get to experience the process of getting to happily ever after from once upon a time. Otherwise, there's no story, there's no adventure, there's no lesson, there's no learning, there's no growing, there's no changing.
Okay, that makes sense. So this might be related to it, but a different, maybe different perspective. In a
Yes.
previous transmission, you were discussing 9 levels of consciousness, and you
Yes.
talked about how the oversoul does not require a lot of space and it experiences time in a multidimensional way.
Yes, what we call simultaneous time. Now, in physical reality, you experience linear time. On the soul, individual soul level, you experience intermittent time because you can experience either linear time or instantaneous time. But on the oversoul level, it's instantaneous, simultaneous time where you have multiple experiences being experienced all at once. In the same way, again, by simplistic analogy, as if you were watching thousands of television screens and capable of understanding every single story being told on every single one of those screens all at once. That's the oversoul perspective.
Okay. And then what did you mean by it doesn't need a lot of space?
Well, the idea of collapsing time down to an instantaneous single moment is the same thing as your Einstein discovered, because space-time is one basic thing, just two different, shall we say, effects of the same idea. So collapsing the time collapses the space. No space is required because, again, space is also an illusion. It's a real experience that you can create, but it doesn't really exist in the way that you think of it as an actual place. Distance is an illusion. There's no distance between anything. Everything is here and now. Therefore, it's collapsing space as well as time, because that's the here component of the here and now. If now is collapsed, so is here.
That makes sense. Okay. So speaking of the oversoul, you described it as the hand and the fingers as the individual souls.
Yes.
Does each individual soul have multiple physical beings associated with it?
Over the course of time, it can appear that way, and that's what you typically refer to from your linear perspective as reincarnation. Because the soul, being an energy sphere, creates the body within itself out of certain vibrations that represent the challenge that that soul wishes to experience to help it grow. When the soul returns to its full form, its full shape, in other words, when the physical body has, quote unquote, died or expanded back to the idea of the soul perspective, then it can choose different vibrations to create a different personality, to have a different experience, linearly speaking. Therefore, you could say that that is really the way reincarnation works, but the idea is that every new personality also has a different soul, because the configuration of vibrational patterns within the soul that created that different body had to also be different, and therefore it is, in a sense, a different soul. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And so
It just depends It just depends on the perspective, subjectively, that you're coming from when you describe this process as to how you experience it.
Okay. So are these different beings from the same soul? They're in different realities at the same time?
Oh, you're talking about parallel realities.
Okay.
That's a little bit different than the idea of the reincarnational realities that we just described. It's a type of parallel reality, but there are actually multiple types of parallel realities. So again, it depends on subjectively which type you're actually referring to. If you're referring to the idea that there may be what you would think of as multiple versions of yourself experiencing different pathways, that's one type of parallel reality structure.
Okay. From one soul, when it expands and then it contracts and it creates another entity, is that, you mentioned that it could be a different personality. So it could be a different, it might not be me, it might be a different entity.
Oh yes, it's not you, it's a different entity. And the soul is different as well. Because again, it's creating that different personality out of different vibratory frequencies within its energy. So in a sense, you can say from one perspective, yes, it's the same soul creating another physical body. But from another perspective, you could say, well, that's a different soul because it's made up of different energy patterns, because it's given different patterns to the physical body. And therefore, those patterns don't exist within the soul anymore at that level. It's a different soul because it's a different formula of vibrational frequencies in order to create that different, unique personality out of those different frequencies.
And then do animals and humans come from, I know they're different, do they come from the same soul?
A soul is an individual thing.
Okay.
Animals have their own souls.
Okay.
Animals are connected to the angelic realm. They're not angels, but they come from the angelic realm because they are representative of unconditional love.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But animals have their own souls. They have their own life paths. They are intertwined with yours, but they have their own.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bashar. I appreciate your time today and all the information.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Aveo. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. This is Marcus from Norway. I have a question about a theory that I developed 3 years ago, which relates to the ideas of ships and physics. If we were to put a consciousness at the center of a ship and then facilitate the development of the ship and its technology to properly reflect what a consciousness does most naturally, which is go into a state of flow, then developing the different modules of every module of the ship according to that knowledge, would that cause the ship to go into a state of flow? And if so, would that cause the ship to pass the upper third density threshold and therefore go faster than the speed of light? Thank you. We love you. Aveo.
Yes, depending upon the material that you're working with. It's not going to happen for all materials. This is, in a sense, what happens with the ships that we use, is that they are crystallized versions of our higher minds. So, yes, what you're saying is true, and it raises the vibration above and beyond the threshold of physical reality when it is imprinted with that vibration and unlocked from any particular physical universe. It allows it to shift and reduce the idea of distance to nothing. So yes, in general, you are correct, but only for certain kinds of technological materials and substances that would allow that to happen. Your physical world doesn't have those substances quite yet.
Greetings, Bashar. I suffer from aphantasia, the inability to visualize. I'm always in darkness. I can't see anything since I was about 8 years old. I went to a Dolores Cannon session, and there was someone with me named Abel. That was his joke, short for ability. And it was taken away from me so that I can send up all this information in its purest form, not boxed up. But the problem is I'm sad about that because I can't picture anything, faces, people, places. Everything's new for me every day, and I embrace that. But my concern is that going to hinder me at all from reaching a higher frequency, a higher elevation? Because I want that. I need that. So if you could guide me in my journey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Aphantasia will not hinder you one little bit. You just have to use your imagination to create the images that you feel are necessary in a different way. Maybe learn to draw them, or create a collection of pictures that you can look at physically in your world, which will be perfectly fine substitutes for the idea of not necessarily holding them in your imagination or your mind. So be creative with the idea of how to create pictures that represent what you need them to represent in whatever way, shape, or form your creativity and imagination so desires. Take advantage of what's available to you in your physical reality to replace that system with something physical. It will not inhibit you one bit from raising your vibration.
Hi, Bashar.
And good day to you, Molly.
We have a lot of questions today. I'm excited to ask.
All right, but before you do, we have a little continuation of the monologue. So, give us a moment. The idea is to remember, in this exchange, this day of your time, in this transmission, are two of the principles that we have discussed over the years, that we have been communicating with all of you. Number one, remember, it is not about what happens that matters. It is about what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your reality. Number two, the fourth step of the formula, to stay in a positive state no matter what occurs, even if it is objectively out of alignment with what you prefer. By staying in that positive state, it will allow you to extract a benefit from it. So staying in that positive state, remembering that it's all about your response to what is going on that makes the difference, are vitally important at this time for you to remember with regard to the subject at hand of this transmission. Now, let us remind you that when we spoke in Sedona, in that transmission, and we referred to female and male energies, we were talking about energies, not necessarily the idea of specific people. We allowed you to make that interpretation. Even though sometimes those energies can be applied to specific people, our purpose, as we have just said, in making what appeared to be a political observation, a political statement, was for the purpose of taking a reading on the pulse of your population in terms of your response and reaction to what was said. The idea, therefore, is that our Interstellar Alliance Council has now been in deep discussions for quite some time, since that transmission, about the differences that may occur in the upcoming years with regard to contact, not based on any political elections on your planet, but on your responses to the comments that were made. So the idea to understand is, while contact is still going to occur, is still inevitable within the next 5 of your years, we gave you that window of 5 years because there was movability, flexibility within that window. Due to reactions and responses
that we received and picked up and observed in the collective energy of your society with respect to the comments that were made in our transmission, we have determined that there is now a high degree of probability that what we first suggested would occur at the end of your 2026 and the beginning of your 2027 may now occur somewhere more around your 2028 or 29. Because we now have to assess exactly, based on what we have picked up from all of you, exactly how and why contact will occur on your planet. It will still happen, but the reasons for it, the style of it, may change somewhat due to our observation and assessment of information that people on your planet are capable or not capable of handling. Remember, as we just said in the initial monologue, we did not give you a political opinion. We gave you a reading of the energy that exists at this moment with regard to the idea of whether or not male and female energy will move forward in a balanced way in your society or an imbalanced way in your society. The most important thing that we can say at this time is this. We will put it in these terms. You have entered the age of what you term the oligarchs. The people that you choose to put into positions within your governments that you elect are not the people that are, in your terms, running things. It almost does not matter who you have elected, for there are many things going on behind the scenes that will come out in certain ways at certain times that will allow you to recognize how your world is really run and allow you the opportunity to work together, to talk to each other, to finally communicate instead of divide, instead of being divisive, instead of sticking to your own opinions, instead of basing them on fears, to finally break down the barriers and allow yourself not to be on one side or the other of the glass wall that creates the splitting prism, but to be the glass wall, to allow communication to flow in both directions, to get at the crux of the issues deep down and to not be afraid to talk to each other, to discuss with each other, to learn from each other, to hear each other, to commune with each other. Remember, you are all on the same planet, even if you are in different realities. We have talked about the idea of multiple variations of Earths, so do not be confused by this phrase. The idea in your minds is that you have one world, and it can be experienced that way even if you are in different realities as individuals. It can be experienced positively as one world if you allow yourselves to begin to truly talk with one another, to communicate with one another on a deeper level, to go around and get past your fears of what the others in your lives may think, may believe. It's about the idea of being willing to open up communication and making that the most important thing in your reality so that you can express your true self-empowerment as you move forward toward open contact. So even while our Interstellar Alliance is having a discussion on our end about how, where, when, and why contact will occur inevitably, in your realities, all of your realities, the idea is that you must also convene discussions, communications, and have consensus on a very important level, regardless of the differences you may have in your perspectives. It's all right to be different. It's all right to have different points of view. It's all right to be yourselves, but you must make sure that those perspectives and those points of view are not coming from negative or fear-based beliefs. Find within each other the positive aspects of each other's perspectives. Learn, talk, discuss. Do not be afraid. Be open, be kind, be gentle. This is the most important thing. And to that end, as the presentation in Sedona initially of the description of how